On May 16th, we finally got some card reveals from the Disney Lorcana media team. They revealed to us a few animal companions, including Timon, Iago, Cerberus, and Sergeant Tibbs. Although we don't get all of the information on the cards, I'm really happy to see cards being revealed again through their socials. They haven't properly revealed a card from their socials since April 10th, when they revealed Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer. We first see Pascal and Flounder, which we've already had revealed for some time, so I won't go over those. But next, we get to Timon Grub Rustler. Timon is an amber inkable 1-cost indicated by the flourish with 1 strength and unknown willpower. His ability Tastes Like Chicken says when you play this character, you may remove up to 1 damage from chosen character. Being a 1-drop, Timon is directly synergistic with Stitch Rockstar. We don't know how much lore Timon has, but he could still see play in the Stitch deck since you can play him to heal a character, draw a card, and get a unit out on board. Based on other 1-drops we have, my first guess would be that he has 2 willpower and 1 lore. Hey Hey is also an amber inkable 1-cost with 1 strength and an ability. We can see Hey Hey has 1 lore and 2 willpower, which is where I get those numbers from. Next, we can see Sergeant Tibbs, Courageous Cat from 101 Dalmatians. Sergeant Tibbs is an inkable 1-cost card with 2 strength. We can't see its willpower or lore again, but I would guess it has 2 willpower and 1 lore. We're starting to see a trend in generic 1-drops like Stitch, Flounder, and Goons that reflect this, and I think we'll end up seeing this in every color. Sergeant Tibbs is just Ruby's version of that, which was needed, by the way. I'm very happy to finally see a 1-drop in Ruby because the only Ruby cards we had so far were really expensive, making it difficult to test against decks containing colors like Amethyst or Amber, which are full of aggressive lore-gathering cheap units. A generic 1-cost 2/2 like Sergeant Tibbs gives Ruby something to play on turn 1 to try to stop Maleficent biding her time from getting out of control. Next, we see Cerberus, 3-headed dogs, is a steel inkable 5-cost with 5 strength and 6 willpower. This card looks to be vanilla and we don't know how much lore it has. If I had to guess again, I'd say it has 1 lore. All the other 5-cost cards we have are a little understated and make up for it with either their ability or what I believe to be an extra lore. The only specifically vanilla 5-cost we have is Jumbo Chukiba Renegade Scientist, who has 1 less strength and willpower than Cerberus. Also, most of the characters in Steel so far have been a little more geared towards good stats and or abilities at the cost of only having 1 lore. So they're good at keeping board control, but not very good at gaining lore altogether. I think this fits Cerberus's stats because a 5/6 for 5 is a very good stat line compared to most of the other cards we've seen in the first chapter. Finally, we get to see Iago Loudmouth Parrot. He's an inkable 3-cost card with 1 strength and what looks like 4 willpower. His ability is called You Got a Problem, and we can't read all of the text except for this little portion that says Gains Reckless. Now I want to preface this next part by saying everything else I'm about to say about this card is pure speculation and we don't actually know what Iago's ability could be. After doing a little testing on what kind of phrasing we see on other cards that have conditions and transferring it to Iago to see if the words line up on the cards like they do in the picture, my best guess is that Iago's ability is similar to Elsa's in that you exert Iago to give another character Reckless. If this is the case, I think it'll be a pretty decent card. A lot of people get hung up on the Reckless keyword, which means a character with Reckless can't quest and must attack if they are able. A character can still sing a song and other characters can challenge first, but the most important part about Reckless is preventing questing. Questing is by far the most valuable thing you can do with a character in Disney Lorcana. When you quest with a character, your opponent has a few options. They can use their character to also quest, trying to race you to 20 lore. They can challenge with their character, putting them behind questing tempo but possibly ahead in board state, or they can sing a song or use an exert ability to do something else, but again, that's keeping them from questing. In testing right now, cheap aggressive decks that quest every turn and race to 20 lore are really powerful because there aren't cards in the pool to efficiently take care of them. It's hard to keep up when your opponent is questing every turn and you're having to not quest and challenge with all of your characters. A card like Iago helps prevent this just a little more. Iago has 4 willpower, so if you're exerting him to give Reckless to cheap lore gainers, those cheap cards can't take out Iago when they're forced to attack him or another exerted character. So far, 4 willpower units like Steamboat Mickey, Wardrobe, and Maleficent have been pretty strong just because there aren't many other units that can 1-for-1 trade with them. Iago might not have the same strength as those characters, but this leaves your opponent with some weird decisions. They can either challenge Iago, damaging or banishing their own character without banishing Iago, or they can take an unfavorable trade by wasting 2 or more characters to banish Iago while one of their characters has Reckless. They might also have to waste resources in hand to get rid of all your exerted characters if they don't want the Reckless character to be banished. This really disrupts the pattern of player 1 questing and player 2 responding over and over again, which I'm really happy to see. Playing against Iago looks like it might be just as annoying as he normally sounds. Not to mention, you also have the likes of Cheshire Cat and Cruella to exert next to Iago, making sure your opponent hates every decision tree available to them for their next turn. We'll have to wait to see what else else is in the first chapter and do a little testing before we can truly start saying what's great and what isn't, but I think the potential for Emerald to be a really strong ink is there. The way these cards keep going, I wouldn't be surprised if Emerald turns into the hated ink, similar to how people don't like playing against blue players in Magic, just because of how awful it's going to feel being forced to make bad decision after bad decision playing against them. I can't wait to see how the ink identities flesh out. Remember when I said I didn't think we'd see official Lorcana tournaments for a few months after launch, after hearing what Ravensburger had to say about organized play? To my delight and surprise, I was wrong. On May 7th, the events page for Gen Con was posted, and the first thing we all searched for was Disney Lorcana, and man, were we pleasantly surprised. There are a ton of events listed out starting Thursday all the way to Sunday. There's a total of 34 Disney Lorcana Learn to Play demos from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the hour, every hour from Thursday through Saturday, and 9 a.m. to noon on Sunday. During these demos, you'll be provided with hands-on experience and receive a Lorcana starter deck upon completion of the demo. The event is supposed to last an hour, and there are 60 tickets per event, so I'm assuming these demos will look a lot like the ones we saw at Gamma, where a bunch of people sit at some tables, maybe they're handed a demo deck or given a starter deck at the beginning of the event, they're taught how to play, and then get to keep playing until the hour's up. We don't actually know yet whether or not you'll get to pick which starter you walk away with from this event, but regardless, it's a great way to learn the game or guarantee you get your hands on a starter deck if you want to. I'll go over the wish list later, but even with 34 total Learn to Play demos and 60 tickets per demo, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the demos fill up because they're on people's wish lists. Disney Lorcana is so popular, Gen Con themselves mentioned Disney Lorcana in a tweet only 2 days after the event catalog release, asking what events are you eyeing and why is it Disney Lorcana? But the demo events aren't even the best part. Everyone was surprised when we came across the Disney Lorcana starter deck challenges. These are 3-round Swiss tournaments where players are randomly given a starter deck and they're allowed to add cards from the booster pack included to enhance their deck. Each round is 50 minutes and the top 8 players will receive a Disney Lorcana playmat and an invitation to participate in a special event on Sunday, which I will get to in a moment. We don't know if the playmat mentioned is a normal Disney Lorcana playmat or if it's some sort of top 8 or Gen Con stamped playmat. The event says there's only 59 tickets, but I don't know why they wouldn't make it a 64-player tournament. That could just be a bug or a typo. There's also only 7 of these tournaments during Gen Con, 2 on Thursday, 3 on Friday, and 2 on Saturday, which doesn't completely add up after reading about that special event on Sunday mentioned in the description, which just so happens to be a Disney Lorcana TCG Gen Con finale. This is an invite-only tournament where the format is secret and so is the prizing. Everyone at the event will receive at least 1 prize, while the top 8 finishers from the event will receive extra prizing. We literally don't know anything about this tournament other than you have to top 8 one of the starter deck challenges in order to be invited. The event does say that it's a 64-player tournament, but like I said earlier, there's only 7 starter deck tournaments that we know of. The top 8 of those 7 tournaments only make 56 players. So where are the other 8 players going to come from? We don't really know. It could be that an event just isn't listed. They also might have something special planned, like throwing in Ryan, Steve, and 6 other people who worked on the game in the tournament. Because we don't know the format, they could do something crazy like a multiplayer format or a 2v2 against Ravensburger employees or something. There could be secret stickers on the starter decks for people playing demos that grant a person entry. Who knows? But I'm so excited for an official Ravensburger tournament already, even if it's only a starter deck tournament. This doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be more large tournaments after the release, because we haven't heard anything about that, but there is hope they'll come sooner rather than later. The stakes are high to make it into that finale, but I'm going to try to practice my hardest and make it in there as long as I get a ticket to one of the starter deck challenges, which leads me to the next thing I was going to explain, the wish list and event system. Those of us going to Gen Con can put events we're interested in on our wish list, ranking them from 1 to 50, 1 being the one we want to get into the most. On May 21st at noon Eastern, the submit button is going to turn on for everyone and we'll all submit our list as fast as we can. Once we click the button, we'll be thrown into a queue where the website will do its magic and show us which events we got into and which ones filled up before we got into them, after which we have 2 hours to accept and pay for those events. From what I understand, if you have overlapping times for your events, Gen Con will not let you into one of those events because of the conflicting time, which is why the only thing on my list are those Lorcana starter deck challenges, because I'm not taking the risk. Also, let's say I'm the 5th person in line, I would have access to sign up to all 7 tournaments, which could be a problem considering there's only 59 tickets and the first 59 people who get into the queue could take them. I could be completely wrong about how that works. All of this to say, I'm just hoping to get into 1 challenge for Gen Con. Any more and I'll be ecstatic. There is a conflict though. If you'll notice, the morning events for Thursday and Friday start at 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. respectively. 10 a.m. is also the time the exhibit hall opens, which is where Ravensburger's booth will be, where they'll likely be selling products. So if I get into the Thursday and Friday morning tournaments, I'll have to decide whether I want to try to top 8 at the tournament or give up my spot in the tournament so that I can guarantee product at Gen Con. We don't know which products will be available to Gen Con, so that could be a deciding factor. To make matters worse, I just learned my LGS isn't taking pre-orders either, and it's going to be first come, first serve. So I'm a little anxious going into this weekend, hoping that I get a tournament slot other than those morning tournaments so that I can be in line early and guarantee product to open and make videos for you guys. Regardless of what happens, I know I'm going to have a blast and can't wait as Gen Con and the Lorcana release date get closer and closer. That wraps up everything new that's happened since the last video. If you want to stay up to date for all things Disney Lorcana, you should hit that subscribe button and follow me on Twitter. As soon as I learn something new, I usually post it on there, and we also have some fun discussion about Lorcana while we wait for August. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know what your favorite animal companion was in the comments. If you had to choose between going to the tournament at Gen Con and securing a product, which one would you choose? I need a little help. Most importantly, don't forget to take care of yourselves. My name is Brandon, also known as B Squared. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.